Okay, so this is a, try to keep it brief video on the TC9 motor, which seems to be gaining popularity again. All right, so Tilo Stompler of TC Sounds, he went for a long time really unnoticed as a direct vendor. I think it had a little to do with the internet and also some of the contracts that he had signed with OEMs. So he had OEM clients, I should say. So he had developed with Bob Carver's input on basically a high BL motor. And Tilo really developed that. Now, Tilo was like a big fan of the underhung, and for a long time he really pushed that, but a lot of his clients really just wanted like overwhelming awesomeness and the ability to abuse the shit out of it. And that's what you get when you use a big heavy coil and a big heavy motor, is that sort of ability to abuse. So this is the this is a version, I should say, of the TC9. The original TC9 showed up in 1998 for Orion. Orion used to be a local company here, started by Bernie Boland, and at the time, they bankrupted in 2003. That's when I got my start. They sold it to DEI, and then DEI sold it to the guys that have it now, which is the Brazilian guys. But anyways, on the Orion HCCA 10D and 12D, they had this motor, which was dual 3/4 inch slugs. Now this version has a single, let me grab my ruler. It should be 1.25 inches, but we'll see. No, it's 1.5 inches. So it's 1.5 inches, so it's the same as dual 3/4 inch slugs. Some people, I did talk to, I forget his name, I apologize, the founder of, or he was a builder anyway, of Image Dynamics, and he was talking about that they don't like, a lot of people don't like to laminate lots of magnets together because they're not always perfect, and they, like a tower, they kind of lean a little bit, or they're crooked, or you're not getting enough magnetic transfer. And I've been criticized many times for using too many magnets, which is hilarious because if it's too tall, it really doesn't give a shit. The quantity of magnetic mass, the storage bank of the motor, which is the magnet, is there, and that's all that matters. And you can, it's okay to go overkill on it. It's not a big deal. What happens is you saturate the electrical magnetic capabilities of the steel to focus into the gap. So, which is what you want. You want the whole thing to be saturated when you zap it, when you magnetize it. And then you want the steel to be saturated. Now, sometimes you can cheat a little bit by giving it more steel. And that's what's actually ironic about a lot of these Neo motors, like on the, I think it was the original Sundown Team Neo. It actually had more steel than it did Neo, and it ended up being just about as heavy as the ceramic version, the ferrite version. And so originally Tilo had developed the Storm series for Lightning Audio after Rockford had bought the brand. And that was the marketing ploy on that one, was that, you know, for these riser dudes that want to go fast and be light, they should get the Neo motor. It was a way to upsell somebody on Neo. So, and those are collectibles now. People really like those. Again, built and developed by TC Sounds. He used a lot of Chinese parts, you know, which you would have to. The only exception would be somebody like Scott Atwell at FEA, who actually does a lot of the machining inside. And it's very difficult to avoid Chinese steel. Not that there's anything wrong with Chinese steel. You just got to make sure you're getting what you're supposed to be getting, or that it's going to work. That was the other thing I wanted to debunk, is that mild steel is fine for any of these. I know for a while there, I think it was Scott that was, you know, saying that there's some sort of 10-20 steel or some sort of magic number. And I looked like a fool when I approached China about that. They kind of laughed at me because they were like, you don't need that steel. That's probably just a steel that he uses. And on the, you know, FEA, the computer software, I'm sure it looks great. But again, real quick on that too, I know this is supposed to be brief. It's already 4 minutes. The FEA software is a good doctoral project, which is what it is. So somebody earned their doctorate by developing that software. Now, when you're modeling a magnetic motor in the software, it's a good theory. you don't know for sure until you actually put it into practice. And even if you put it into practice, all it's going to really help you do is optimize the amount of neo and placement of magnetic material, whether it's neo or ferrite, and how it affects the stray flux and things like that. So what it's really good at is using a minimal amount of magnetic material to get you the results that you want. So that's all it's for. So a lot of, you see in a lot of my designs, I just like here, this one's a 2.5 inch coil. So I just put the ferrite shit out of it. So why? Because I got fucking pallets of ferrite from American ferrite from Volcano, and it looks cool. People like it. The whole idea is for it to sell and work. And so if it does all those things, who cares if it's quad stack? Who cares if it's not utilizing that fourth slug? So that's the other thing too, is like supposedly after 3 slugs, like it's diminishing returns on this fourth slug. Who gives a shit? Does it bump? Yes. Fucking shut up. And then all of a sudden, everybody sort of, even Jacob at Sundown was like, you shouldn't do that. And then on the ZV5, what does he do? He comes out with fucking 4 slugs. He covers it with a huge boot, which is funny, but that's what he did. So, but back to this one. The TC9 was on the 10 and 12 HCCA series, 3-inch coil, 4-layer, copper, the original ones. Later versions came out with aluminum. I think that had to do more with cost, because it's cheaper to use an aluminum coil. Real quick on that, there's no real performance difference between the two. Sometimes you want to use a copper coil because it adds mass. Otherwise, if you use an aluminum coil, sometimes you have to add mass in order to make it have a low FS the way that you want it to. Otherwise, it's not going to play as low. And I learned that from PSI Builder. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. He was so nice to me when he worked at RE. Oh God, it's killing me. Anyways, I watched him build woofers for RE, and I said, why do you put the big dab of glue on there? And he's like, it helps it make bass better. And of course he was being silly, but it was the truth. Sometimes you want a certain mass, certain moving mass, in order to play certain frequencies. So do you lose sensitivity? Yes, you do. But you get to play lower, and that's what you want in a subwoofer. Now, if you're looking at a PA driver, you don't want it to be heavy, because you're not going to play low, deep music with it. Oh, what's that, DJs? You're playing EDM with it, recorded music? Yeah, you shouldn't be using PA fucking drivers. You should be using car woofers. But you guys are dumb, and you'll learn your lesson every time you do a recon, and it's $300 fucking dollars, or you got to replace the whole driver, and it's $1,000. So, but you'll learn eventually that you need car woofers. And so back to Tilo. Tilo on the 15-inch version of the HCCA. Sorry, I got to stay focused. The 15 was the larger version, and it was dual 1-inch slugs, which was the largest version of it. Now, if you go back in the Internet Archive and you look, what Tilo did was he reintroduced, when he was selling direct through the tcsounds.com website, what he did was he reintroduced it and said that it had 25% more BL than the original version, which is true, because the original version of the TC9 was a dual 3/4-inch slug. And if you add a little bit more ferrite, which is dual 1-inch, then it's about 25% more BL. And so that ended up becoming, even though I asked him about it, I asked Tilo about it, he goes, because what he would do is in the next rev, he would just add a plus, meaning it's better, which is funny, which is what you see sometimes when I name my stuff. I just add like extreme or gonzo or something silly to the end of it. It's sort of to make fun of that. But so Tilo ended up calling it the TC9 Plus, and then later dropped the plus and just called the TC9 and was reintroducing it. But that was when he was kind of swirling the drain anyway, financially. But and then bankruptcy in 2007. But this was another one of Tilo's designs. So this is the side mount. He actually had a patent for this. This was supposed to be a removable top assembly. He had OEM'd this for Eclipse, of course, which is the 8 series. And he would use American hardware. This was, I think, a 1024 that he put in the side. I had it somewhere. There it is. So there's that. And then the idea was that if it needed to be serviced, Eclipse could sell you a new top assembly. On this design, you use those little tiny leads, but you know, it's doubled up from the other side, so they're wired in parallel, so it seems like it's a lot more. And there's probably another really thin spider on the underside of this. So, and then of course that cone, that beautiful cone. This was the aluminum version. I think some of the TI Pro, he used a titanium. Not that there's any performance difference. I think it was, it might have been a little bit stronger or something like that, but most people don't use aluminum cones anymore because if they get dented or marred in some way, the whole thing is fucking toasted, so it kind of sucks. This one actually came to us, somebody probably had dropped it and busted this, and they tried to glue it, but that's not going to work. And so there you go. That's the aluminum cone version, or aluminum coil. I can tell that right away. And then it's got the, look at that, barcode. So you can zap it and sell it like a, you know, an item off the shelf. But that's just a piece of aluminum that was milled that would bolt to the frame. And of course, I got criticized for only using 3 bolts, but here you go. Here's Tilo, the famous Tilo, using only 3 bolts. But, and then you would use 4 on this one, on the outside. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So this one was QC'd by ROM. And again, it's just a 4-layer gap. American standards. Now, the thing you got to watch out for on these old TC sounds is that these are, this one was drilled, but it was not tapped. And so this one was drilled for 1/4 inch. So you got to make sure you use 1/4-20 threads. And I already had and tapped them out for this client. This client wants the new chrome 4-spoke frame. You know, grab that one for him. There it is. So this is a chrome powder coat, which of course is much more affordable than polishing the aluminum and then plating it. I think copper, you have to plate it with copper, and then you plate it with chrome or gold after that. So, but I drilled and tapped it's a standard 5-inch hole pattern on this new frame with the vents in it. And he's going to do that. He indicated that he wanted a tall rubber surround, which I did. And then we're going to do a single poly cap. But I just wanted to cover that. That's the TC9. It's famous. Later on, I think it was Glenn at NCA Labs developed their own version for the Elvis sub, which I did a video on. It was not the Mojo. There was some weird branding, like the Mojo. I thought the Mojo was supposed to be the same motor, but like with a 4-spoke frame. But I looked through the Internet Archive and I could never find a version of that. And but you know, we're talking about late 90s, so it was just difficult to find. The Internet Archive doesn't have every version of the website, but I think they did a similar motor on the Mojo, and then that's when Glenn was doing that for Memphis at NCA Labs, and then wasn't sure if it was him or if who was it? The other one was Bob Speck. Bob Speck was building the Chinese versions for I think they took over AlumaPro as a client. He basically stole them away from Tilo because they could offer a Chinese version for, you know, cheaper. I mean, a brand like AlumaPro was great and everything, but it was just all, you know, just make 1 million of them, sell them real quick. But anyways, there's several revisions, and a revision is still used today. That's because it's a really common design. It fulfills all the needs that you need to, and it's good for, in a small enclosure, it can do about 1,000 watts. So, but Tilo was real conservative with the rating, and so was Orion at the time, and I think they only rated it at 600 RMS. And of course, this is the TC7, which is it's the same coil, the same gap, 3-inch, but it's a less ferrite and a smaller diameter. It used a smaller standard size magnet. That one was the same as the Rockford Punch HX2, which is really great. And it's good for almost like 850. It's pretty rad. But this version actually is good for about 1,000. And I think Lord Bass actually still sells a version of it. I think it's called the what is it called? The LVL3, which I think is a nod. George Campos there got his start from Glenn there at NCA Labs up in Northern Cal, and sort of continued his work. And then that's where you see the, I think it's called the BLM. And if you bought those a long time ago, they actually said Glen motor. So on the side of the packaging, when you get it from George there at Lord of Bass. And just so you know, I am not Lord of Bass. I am not. George is like way bigger than me. And he imports tons of shit from China, and I love buying and using him as samples. And then if I can ever find enough money, then I finally do order something from China. But, you know, ordering from China is big boy stuff, and you have to order, you know, 500, 1,000 pieces, whatever the fuck they want. And you don't even get the real discounts until you order like 10,000 pieces. Then you all of a sudden you get really, it's like the doors of China just open up to you, and you get all kinds of, it's like stuff for free. But that's a lot of freight, and that's a lot of taxes, and it's, you know, then you're a job creator. So, but anyways, that's what I wanted to do on the TC9, and thanks for watching, guys. Do all that, subscribe, share stuff. You know what to do. Talk to you later.